Okay, here are most of the parts for the stove that I'm building. I did create two different doors. One of them will have glass, one will not. The reason for creating two different doors is in case I break the glass in the one, I'll have the other one that I can use. It's just a precaution. So this is the stove top, this is the back, this is the front. These are the doors for the front. I'll just have them on an interchangeable hinge, which I'll show later. This is a warming tray that goes on the side of the stove. Now, this is essentially what I'm building. This is a outfitter stove from cylinderstoves.com. This is something my neighbor has. He has a different air intake right here, but I'm building something 99% identical. I even had Cylinder Stoves roll this for me. They're only about 30 minutes from me. And the guy that owns the business has a son that works at the same place as me, so he just brought the part up to me, and it was great. Anyway, they don't have a problem with me building my own stove and saving the money. I'm sure if I were to start selling them, they would, but I don't have time to do that anyway, nor would I want to. But I do want to do a couple of things to this that are not done in that, and one of them has to do with secondary air, if you remember me testing my stove, prototype stove. So I want to put in a secondary air. I don't quite know how I'm going to do that yet, and I also want to put in a baffle, which these don't have. And so that's what I'm going to attempt to do. I think what I'll do first is put the back on so that this thing has the structure that it needs, the right dimensions, and then I'll start modifying it from there. Here's my progress so far. These rings, I cut them probably 1/4 inch or a little bit more, 3/16 or so, larger than what this ring diameter was supposed to be, which was 15 1/4. So I think I cut these at 15 1/2 if I remember correctly, which basically gives me a little bit of a lip on the back side to weld to. My welds are not the prettiest on this. I wish I had a positioner, but I don't. But anyway, I was able to basically weld this piece and the back and the front together, just going around that edge. No grinding or anything other than a little cleanup that I did on one of my welds. But that's that. The top can go on after I do some internal modifications. And the doors. Believe it or not, this is actually the second top I'm building. The first one I thought I was and I put too much heat into it, and by the time it cooled down it had warped it. So that was a waste of material basically, but it's still cheaper for me to build it even with that mistake. So I rebuilt this. I'm taking my time now. I'm letting it cool down quite a bit in between a few tacks, and it's not warping, of course, this time because I didn't put too much heat in it. So here's the stove as I have it complete so far. And what I'm planning on doing is putting this baffle in here. And one thing you'll notice is that the bracing on the stove here and the flue right here, that's about an inch tall, 3/4 to an inch tall. And so if this were to represent my top piece, I would have to account for about this much of it being blocking airflow for bracing. So what I did is I came down 2 inches to put my baffle in, which would be right, and the air available space for airflow is greater than what's needed. This can't allow that much air. This can't draw that much air as I'm allowing right here. So I did make this baffle a little shorter. I guess most baffles would come up here, but I did that for a couple of reasons or so. The first one is I don't want to open this up and have smoke come out. The second one is I want to be able to allow more wood. If I fill this whole thing with a baffle, I can only put in about 3/4 of the amount of wood I normally would be able to. So I cut the baffle back for that reason too. And it should still allow me a good amount of heat capture for what it is. Third reason I did it was at higher elevations, and this is just what I've heard, I haven't actually tested this myself, but the draft is harder to get going, and if you're blocking it off with more baffle, you'll have a harder time getting the fire going. So this is kind of a compromise between no baffle and a full baffle. Just coming up, I came up 14 inches on this one. So I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and weld that in. I may put some bracing on it. I haven't decided quite yet. I don't think I will. I think I'll just weld it in as it is with a few tacks or so, and then I'll put the top on. Okay, this is my progress on the stove so far. I need some parts from the store, so I'm going to call it a night for now. This is the door I plan on using. I do have a second door built exactly the same without a window. I want to put a piece of glass neo-ceramic in here so that I can actually see the fire and everything from the inside and get a glow out at night if I want. But should I happen to break that, I wanted a spare door that I can just throw on the exact same thing but no window, so that I don't lose any functionality other than just won't be able to see the fire. That means I'm going to use a hinge that this can just slide up and off, and I can put the other door on if necessary. I did spring load this as I did on my prototype, so that as the door expands, as it heats up, I won't have any problems opening and closing it. I plan on using wooden handles as I did on the prototype also. Inside there's my baffle, and between the vent up there and the top of the baffle is probably about 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches. I don't remember exactly, at least 1.25 inches. Looking at it though, just eyeballing it, looks more than that to me. The baffle, I just went ahead and used 10 gauge steel. I know it can take the heat. If it ever does burn up, I can always replace it. If it doesn't burn up, which I don't expect it to, it should last a long time. Anyway, I've got the top all welded on, and what remains to be done is I need to put on the female ends of for the feet. I had some cast iron, whatever you want to call them, for the black pipe. I just used the black pipe couplers, and I was going to use those to weld on, but they're cast iron, and I don't want to have problems with cast iron cracking or anything in the future, or getting a poor weld. So tomorrow I'll probably go and pick up something else besides those. And after that, I need to put on some of these tie-down rings in case I need to tie it down on something. Those are handy for when you're putting it on a four-wheeler or traveling or whatever. And then I also need to put on some of these to receive the warming tray, which will go on the right side. And then I have the cylinder stoves is making the water, the stainless steel water heater portion that goes on there. So I still need to add those. And then the only other thing I may do after that is, well, two things. I think I'll build a tray that goes down here to keep the fire right off of the bottom so that doesn't, burn out down there. Make it last longer. And then the only other thing I may do is put in a secondary air. If I do, it's going to come in through the bottom, up the back, and then just exit right up here by the front of the baffle. I was originally going to make it run from the front here all the way through up and to the back, but everybody's secondary air on larger stoves that I've seen haven't had to need to do that. And I was thinking, well, if I'm going to do it, maybe I'll come from underneath this piece, just so that I don't take up any more room in here, so I can leave more wood in there and everything, as I have the baffle in there taking up space. So I didn't want to create any more problems in here as far as taking up room. So anyway, that's it. I'll just work on it piecemeal here and there as I can. There's really not much left to do. The secondary air would take the longest out of all of these. I was originally going to do a sealed door with the fiberglass rope, but the guy that's been making these cylinder stoves for, I don't know, 25 years, and he hasn't had to do that. I don't see a need to do that. It doesn't need to be airtight because, we're allowing the air in here. I just don't see a need. It's extra work. If I ever have a problem, I don't want to have to, I just don't want to have to deal with the rope. So I may change my mind. We'll see.